Bonjour élèves, bonjour. C'est Madame Dignon, votre professeur de français 2. Aujourd'hui, nous allons apprendre deux verbes. Les deux verbes sont savoir et connaître. Savoir et connaître. Savoir et connaître, ça veut dire la même chose, la même chose. Savoir, ça veut dire to know. Et connaître, ça veut dire to know. Génial, super. Ce n'est pas difficile. Savoir, ça veut dire to know. Connaître, ça veut dire to know. Mais il y a de différents degrés de connaissance. C'est ce qu'on dit. Il y a des différents degrés de connaissance. So, savoir and connaître both mean to know. So that makes it easy for us. However, there are different degrees of knowledge, and that's what we're going to discover today. I kind of feel like we're going on some kind of a Leonardo DiCaprio type movie situation of different degrees of knowledge, but anyway, we're going to go through this together. We're going to check out both of the verbs and their conjugations and their meanings. Throughout this video, you will find that there are times when it will pause and ask you a question. You will have been given in the email that I sent you guys your login information, okay? And don't share it with anybody. Keep it to yourself. But you will be given your login information and your password to a website called Educanon. And Educanon is a really cool way for me to get videos out to you guys and ask you questions, and then you respond to them, and we go from there. So, and I get all your responses so I can see how you're doing and how you're progressing. It's pretty nifty, huh? All right, so here's the deal. Check your email, make sure that you got the video, make sure that you have everything, and let's go ahead and get started, okay? So, les deux verbes que nous avons aujourd'hui, ce sont savoir et connaître. Savoir, les conjugaisons au présent, in the present tense, les conjugations je sais, and make sure when you're writing it out that you write out sais and not suis. Because if you wrote je suis, what does je suis mean? Think about it. Je suis. Okay, tu sais, il sait, and elle sait. And then our root here changes after a certain amount of time, or when we get into the plural, and it becomes nous savons and vous savez, ils savent and elles savent. Do we pronounce the ENT ever? Just out of curiosity? Think about it. So the answer to that is no, we don't. So je sais, tu sais, il sait, nous savons, vous savez, and ils savent. Practice those. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, here we go. Moving on. The verb savoir means that you know factual information. This is information that is 100% certain in your brain. Okay? A couple of examples. Je sais tu sur lui. Je sais tout sur lui. So if I'm looking at this, je sais tout sur lui. Vous savez qui est venu hier. So je sais tout sur lui. I know everything about him. I know everything about him. I believe that there's only one person that knows everything about us. We all know who that is. And it's not me. I know. You know who it is. It's the big guy upstairs. Je sais tout sur lui. So I know everything about him. Vous savez qui est venu hier? Do you know who came yesterday? So when you're asking for factual information, that's when you're going to use the verb savoir. Now, when we're talking about the verb savoir, you're going to find, and this is something different between savoir and connaître, savoir may be followed by these question words that we already know. Now, keep in mind that in this case, doesn't necessarily mean that we're talking about questions. It just means that I know where he lives. I know who she is. I know when we're going. So you hear those question words in there. So that's what we're talking about here. We have the words que, qui, où, quand, comment, and pourquoi. All right, so if we're looking at these, the first example that we have here says, nous savons que tu arrives mardi. Nous savons, we know it. It's a positivity in our hearts and our brains and our souls and everything. We know that you're arriving on Tuesday. Ils savent comment aller à la gare. They know how to get to the train station. My husband says this next one all the time, and I know I mentioned it in class, but I'm not kidding. I think he thinks he invented OnStar. I love him to death, but it's true. Anyway, moving on. He says, je sais où je vais. I know where I'm going. Guarantee somebody in your family does this too. Je sais où je vais. I know where I'm going. I don't need no maps. By the way, that was bad grammar. Tu sais qui a fait la lessive? Do you know who did the laundry? So these are factual information, and you can see where these question words might come into play. All right? Let's move down just a little bit more. Okay, and the verb savoir can also be used to say how to do something. Let's switch it up a little bit. Instead of using these examples here, Austin sait jouer du piano. Austin sait jouer du piano. Okay, let's see here. Lee sait jouer au baseball. Lee sait jouer au baseball, oui. Trey sait comment nager. Trey sait comment nager. Okay. Let me think if there's any others. I'm trying to go through my list of all the people that I know. And I know all of you, so it's hard to pick. Madame Dignon sait parler français. Okay, these are factual things. These are things that I know how to do, okay, or that we know how to do. So what does Trey know how to do? Trey sait comment nager, right? All right. The forms of savoir are irregular in the are regular in the imparfait. So that means we go straight to the new form up here. We go straight to the new form right here, and we conjugate in the new form. We drop our O and S, right? And then we add our imparfait endings. So here, over here is the imparfait section. Je savais qu'il allait venir. I knew he was coming. And savoir in the imparfait does mean knew, like I knew that something was happening. Because if you think about it this way, imparfait is imperfect moment in time. Yes, it's something that's habitual, it's repetitive, it's something that is continuous. Okay, remember that timeline that I showed you guys where the arrow actually hits the timeline in a big, huge spot instead of one small moment in time. When you become knowledgeable about something, when you know something, it's something that sticks with you, does it not? So if you think about knowledge as being something that is continual, it must go into the imparfait. It has to go into the imparfait. Now, savoir does have a passé composé version, and the passé composé version actually means that I found out. It's that moment of discovery, that moment where the knowledge kind of clicks in your brain. And that's where that moment of time comes, where it's just a point in time. And that's the difference between passé composé and imparfait. Okay? We've got je savais qu'il allait venir. I knew he was coming. You still know it to this time, right? So that's why it's imparfait. Nous savions qu'il avait une fête. Nous savions qu'il avait une fête. We knew that there was a party. Okay? So this is something that they knew. They still knew it later on. See what I mean? So that's where the imparfait comes in. It's an imperfect moment in time. J'ai su, however, in the passé composé, j'ai su. Now check it out over here, guys. Su is our past participle now. This is where things get a little wacky. We don't have the regular passé composé past participles. The past participle for savoir is su, S-U. J'ai su qu'il allait venir. I found out that he was coming. Now look at the difference between those two sentences. I knew he was coming, and then I discovered that he was coming. The difference in the amount of time that's passed there can inevitably be, forever. we knew that there was a party. That means that there was already knowledge about it. Here, however, in this section, nous avons su qu'il y avait une fête. We found out that there was a party. We found out that there was a party. Okay, so savoir is knowledge of factual information. Connaître, however, if we move over to page 43, connaître, however, is a little bit different. This is knowledge of existence and knowledge of things that exist. All right, so connaître means to know as well. The conjugations are je connais, tu connais, il and elle connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, and then il and elle connaissent. Again, we do not pronounce that ENT. It is silent, okay? All right. The verb connaître means to know, but it means to know or to have knowledge of or are familiar with. And in this time, we're talking about the existence of things. For instance, here we go. Mes parents ne connaissent pas mon prof de maths. My parents don't know my math teacher. They don't know anything about it. They don't know this person. They're not familiar with this person. Tu connais la fille qui vend l'appartement? Do you know the girl that's selling the apartment? Okay? It's a knowledge of a person. Okay? Using the verb connaître also to say that you have knowledge of places or things. I'll give you an example. Moi, Madame Dignon, je connais le Louvre, le musée du Louvre. I know and I'm familiar with the Louvre Museum. The bell. Sorry guys, it's 3 o'clock. All right, so je connais le Louvre. Je connais le musée du Louvre. I know it because I'm familiar with it. I've been there before. No. Sébastien connaît ce quartier de Rome. Sébastien connaît ce quartier de Rome. Sebastian knows or he's familiar with this neighborhood in Rome. Okay? Je ne connais pas bien la cuisine marocaine. I am not familiar with Moroccan cuisine. Okay? It just means that I haven't had it before and I'm not familiar with it. Okay? Here's the forms of connaître in imparfait. They are regular, so we're going to head right back up to that new form right up here, and we're going to take that new form and drop that ONS, okay? Drop the ONS and then add our imparfait endings. Here's our imparfait here. Luca connaissait Elodie au lycée. So Luca knew Elodie in high school. She knew her. There you go, okay? Luca a connu Elodie au lycée means that he met her. Okay, so that's a little bit different. If we're looking at what it means in the past tense, it implies that we're meeting for the first time in the past tense. That's that moment where we meet. Because once we meet and we know each other forever. Okay? Reconnaître, it's just adding that re in the front of it, just means to recognize something. Mes profs de collège me reconnaissent encore. My middle school teachers still recognize me. I really hope that you guys come back and visit me when you're out of high school. Just come back and visit me and pretend like you love me. And then nous avons reconnu vos enfants à la soirée. We recognized your children at the party. All right. So we take these and we apply these little concepts that we have, and we'll be able to do tons and tons and tons of stuff, all right? I'm going to ask you guys, if you would please, for your homework, these 8 questions. They are on page 43 in your book, à la page 43 sur votre livre. Vous allez compléter « Essayez ». Essayez. Numéro 1, il dit « Je blanque de bons restaurants ». Je blanque de bons restaurants. So you need to decide whether or not you're going to use savoir or connaître. Okay, remember that connaître, we're talking about the knowledge of people or places. When we're talking about savoir, we're talking about the knowledge of factual information. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys finish this up. Watch the video, check it out, and we'll go from there. Bonne journée. Au revoir.